Good evening, friends, and welcome to the show of Mirror Wisdom Reflected. It's a pleasure to have good times around rather than what we were the last time we spoke with Dr. Sashank Joshi and Tushar. Fortunately, despite this wave of COVID, which has come like a huge big tsunami into Bombay and India, we are way better in Bombay, and the wave shall be receding in the rest of the country too. We are trying to get our municipal commissioner, the famous Iqbal Chahal, next very soon to give us the current update on what's happening on the COVID scenario. He's been the leader who has come in the forefront and led from the front, being there at every possible checkpoints to see that we get out of this trouble so quickly. So, friends, Mirror Wisdom Reflected is something very interesting. Herein, I host people who are so very interesting, who are accomplished, who are dynamic, absolutely role models, and result oriented. So, I act as a mirror to reflect the wisdom they have. We have had from varied singers to actors to everybody who have revealed their personal life as to what is there in their life, what's behind the show, what is the reality. Shashank gave us a great insight last time, and Dr. Mahadev also from Ahmedabad was very sweet on giving us the insight on COVID. But today I have the pleasure of having a very important person, and everybody, despite COVID, was very much worried about how and what to do about eating, eating or dieting. So the fuel in the human body, FUEL, that we need, the Gujarati calls it Jataragni, is food. And what we eat is what we are. And as I mentioned earlier, that if we do not make our food medicine, then we'll have to take medicines as food in the later days of life. Because me being a doctor, I see patients who tell me that I have more medicines than chapatis or rice today. Let not that be the way for you in life. We have with us Kinita Kadakya Patel, who has been a sports nutrition and a body transformation and a health management guru. At a very young age, she's achieved a lot. She's one of the India's leading nutritionists and a winner of various nutrition awards. Kinita is voted as one of the best in the country, and I would endorse that too. She specializes in sports-specific diets along with weight management. She's established a leading nutrition center called Meal, MEAL, Meal Pyramid, and has a few branches in Mumbai. Her center focuses on sports nutrition, muscle gain, fat loss, kids nutrition, and therapeutic diets. Wow. We're going to get her into the depth of each of these. Muscle gain and fat loss. Now, these are diametrically like two sides of the same coin. Don't look at each other. How do we make them two together is what we're going to be talking about. Kirita is an internationally renowned nutritionist who worked with us on some of the leading sportsmen, celebrities, and organizations. Our clientele includes a lot of national and international level athletes, Bollywood stars, top models, and heavyweights from the corporate world. She's the official sports nutritionist for the Mumbai Indians team of the Indian IPL. In addition to various affiliations and recognition awards, Kinita has been awarded the Best Nutritionist of the Year by Vogue. Wow, fantastic. And she's an external expert consultant for the GSK Human Performance Lab and is also the first Indian global representative for the professional in nutrition for exercises and sports, PINES. She also heads the nutritional department at the Exercise Science Academy, ACSM, the American College of Sports Medicine, and is the author of the book, The Athlete in You, published in 2016. Recently, Kinita has been nominated as a jury member for the second edition of Times Entrepreneur Award 2020. So she's a fit human being, smiling, always being there. And without much hesitation, she said, yes, it'll be a great pleasure to join us today and listen to us. Kitty, the first question, welcome to the show and thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure. I wish we could have taken more questions and lesser introduction on me. We could next time just tell them, okay, just Google her and let's just begin with the questions.
Lovely. Great way to go. But Kinita, you are too young. And tell me the first Raz. How did you manage to achieve so much at such a young age?
Honestly, I'm working since I was 18 years old, and I did so many jobs and I kept studying simultaneously. At one point, I realized that I am learning so much at every stage, at every step. It is time to now just get all this knowledge together and set up a center. So I started a center very early in age, that I would definitely agree to. But I also started working very, very early in life, because I always felt that whatever you study in books is very different from the practical world outside. And for me, it never made sense if I could not apply what I was reading. And that was one thing which always, from the time I was 16, 17 years old, and I got the opportunity to start working, I took up that challenge and I said, let me see, when you apply what you're reading, when you apply what you're studying, is it exactly the way it is? And that experience gathered for like almost 4 or 5 years, and then I started my center, and my centers are almost 15 years old now. So
What? You are 25. You started at the age of 10, you say. What did you say?
I am not sharing the counting down on my age, but yes, I did start very early.
Geeta, tell me, there are dime a dozen dietitians available across the country.
Yeah.
What is it that differentiates you from somebody else? Result. Basically nobody follows anyone but results. How
Yes,
do you manage to do that? What is it that makes you different from the others?
I'm not different, Doc. I'm not different. We study the same books, we gather the same research papers, we read the same research papers. What only makes me different, and this is not me saying, this is what I have been told, is my sheer one-to-one connect with my clients. I'm too involved with what they are achieving. I am a go-getter with my clients' results are concerned. I do not give up on my clients. I have never given up on a client. And I think that's what makes me different. And I guess for me, it's always about the journey. It is not about the result. If I have managed to teach the client how to eat better, it's not just, I have never flashed a summer sale of 5 kgs or a beach body, get it in 2 months. I don't think I've ever done that in 15 years of my life. So for me, it's all about that connect that I create with my client. And I'm assuming from my experience and feedback that that's what makes me different.
Wonderful. Thanks. That is very important because, I remember a talk by one dietitian, senior dietitian. She
Hmm.
said very clearly that if one plan works for everyone, all dietitians will be jobless.
Exactly. Right? Yeah.
That's so very interesting. Now tell me the journey of dieting that I've been listening to over a period of time. Earlier was eat every 2 hours, and then now we come to the great fact that you eat only twice a day, or you have intermittent fasting of say 16 and 8 hours or 18 and 6 hours. How has this changed? Because one may work for somebody and one may not work for somebody.
Yeah.
What the present fad, most important is the present fad everybody's looking at is intermittent fasting and those who are feeling left out. Does it work for everyone?
Let's answer this in two parts.
Yeah.
Okay. First, nutrition is extremely evolving as a science. Okay. And it has reached a stage where we many times eat our own words, because if you would go backtrack a journey of nutrition 20 years back, said that if your cholesterol is high, don't eat egg yolks. If if your levels are going off the roof, if your sugars are high, don't do beetroots. There are these certain kind of concepts, aloo mat khao, chawal mat khao. But the nutrition science has evolved so much that we have gathered information and got them down to a scientific concentrated level. And today I think we have reached a point where we are saying, no, this kind of research is different, because there are different population studies and there are different kind of people who are responding differently to the yolk in the diet and no yolk in the diet. So yes, we eat our own words, and that is why the key is moderation. Whatever you do, make sense out of it and do it moderately. Okay, don't do excess of something and don't withdraw a food group completely. That's where I think people go wrong. Now, the second part of your question, which was fad diets. Fad diets, when you define a fad diet, means something that comes in fashion, it's in vogue, and you enjoyed it for that season. It gave you some good feeling about wearing it. And then there was a next change in season, right? So that's why we call it fad. It's very, very short lived. The reason why we call it fad is because it is extremely result oriented. Like, you would be shocked with the kind of results that it can show you, but it is not sustainable. Okay. Now, the definition of putting something into a fad diet is where the challenges are happening today. Someone would call intermittent fasting a fad diet. Someone would call ketogenic diets a fad diet. But there is a huge difference. Someone would call being vegan a fad diet. But let's come to intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is a lifestyle change. The reason why it does not apply to everyone is because every body responds differently. So when you want to do an intermittent fasting on a client, it has to be under the guidance of a nutritionist. You cannot just pick it up from the net and say, Acha, kale na, I am going to do intermittent. I am not going to eat. And then you wake up in the morning and say, okay, I'm just going to eat 2 meals a day. There are a lot of underlying factors. There could be digestive issues. There could be blood pressure medications that you're taking. You could be on insulin. You could be having acid reflux issues. You cannot just generalize this and let's assume there are no clinical conditions. Okay. And you woke up and you decided to get onto a ketogenic diet. If you don't do it the right way, it is going to backfire. There is a ketogenic diet and there is a keto adapted diet. The concept is to adapt to a ketogenic diet, which takes a lot of time. Just doing it for 3 weeks, 4 weeks is not going to give you the kind of benefit you want to achieve. So fad diets is also very subjective. It's not the best way to look at it. It is something that if you want to do it, I would again recommend, please do it under the guidance of a professional. Don't just wake up one day and, like you say, don't self-medicate, don't self-diet. It does not work.
Very interesting. Now that you're saying, how do you decide that which person will be good with the every 2 hour meal kind of a diet to reduce his acidity and other things? Who would be good for a keto? Who would be good for an intermittent fasting? Or anything? How do you decide? On what basis do you make a decision that this will work? A very important point, even as a doctor, that you're trying to tell me, let your nutritionist decide. Because
Yeah.
a lot of people read on Bombay Times, page 3,
Yeah.
and suddenly want to do a keto diet, or they want
Yeah.
to do the Atkins diet, or they
Yeah.
also want to do intermittent fasting because everybody's doing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
are you saying in no uncertain word that intermittent dieting or any kind of dieting is not the panacea for the final answer? It's not the elixir. You have to
Absolutely not.
tailor made it for every separate individual. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. How would I figure whether it works for someone or not? Is only through sheer interaction over a couple of weeks. So when I get a client, the way I work is my first session, I don't tell them, okay, I'm a promoter of ketogenic diet, I'm going to give you a ketogenic diet. No, it takes me a couple of weeks to understand the client's system. I go with a very basic way of working. Over a couple of weeks, there could be a client who does not need any of this. They might not require. Now, when would you do a ketogenic diet? I'll tell you, I do a ketogenic diet with my athletes. Okay, why do I do it with an athlete? An athlete needs to adapt to utilize his fat stores more effectively as a source of energy. When you utilize fat as a source of energy, you produce less lactic acid. So when we are in our off season, we work with keto adapted diets with our athletes, which is called metabolic adaptation. Would I do it for weight loss? I highly doubt it if I would do it for weight loss. I would do it for probably someone who is maybe a bodybuilder, again, trying to adapt. Maybe someone who is very, very involved with his body type. Maybe for an actor, for an on-screen shot, I might do it for some time. But see, that's how I would judge when I want to do it, do a diet like a ketogenic diet with somebody. Now let's come to intermittent fasting.
Yeah. Let me just expand on this keto diet, what you said. You said something very interesting and important. You are saying more of a keto diet for an athlete or a
Yes.
sports person or
Yes.
somebody who's using massive calories,
Yes.
not for a sedentary person.
No.
Is that the message that you're giving me?
Yes, it's the message I'm trying to give. It's the message that I've been trying to give for a very long time, that if you are going to pick up a ketogenic diet, either make it a lifestyle, which will take you 3 to 6 months, which again, there is yet to study what would be the side effects of a lifestyle change on a ketogenic diet. And if you're just going to do it because you want to just lose weight, I'm telling you, the transformation to then get you off the ketogenic diet is very difficult, because then to bring you back to a sustainable lifestyle is something not a very successful thing that people have seen. And especially with women, we tend to see a lot of hormonal imbalance. Certain ages, you don't want to apply a ketogenic diet. You might still do it when it's safer to try, but otherwise, it's a very hormonally challenging kind of a diet where ketogenic diets are. But I would close my eyes and I would use it on an athlete, and I would periodize it in their year, and I would definitely consider putting them on it if I'm working on their body composition or fat utilization or metabolic adaptations.
So a corollary to this, all those people who are marathon guys in and around
Yeah,
our area, would you put
yeah.
them on a keto diet?
No. A
Ah,
marathon runner, when
ah.
he's actively running, is utilizing his carbohydrate sources, which is his glycogen sources, as a source of energy, and mobilizing fat as a source of energy, because that's the format of the sport. You are running at a 60% volume of oxygen consumption, and beyond 1 hour, you are going to mobilize fat. But in the off season of that athlete, I might consider putting them on a ketogenic diet where they might adapt better and they might produce lesser lactic acid. But is that the diet they need to continue being on? No. So the point over here is, if you could run a certain distance or certain volume in a certain time, okay, without carbohydrates. So if you manage to do it on a ketogenic diet, if I give you carbohydrate, you're going to fly. So the idea is to get them to adapt and help them mobilize that stored fat as energy, and then bring the carbohydrates back into the picture. And carbohydrate is instant energy. They're going to fly.
So about guys who are doing muscle training, heavy muscle,
Yeah.
would you put them on a keto diet?
No. When you're trying to gain muscle mass, when you're
Right.
trying to gain mass, you
Right.
need carbohydrate. Your mass is defined as glycogen and fat, your stores. Your muscle mass is a combination of these two things. The idea is trying to get the ratio right. You want more lean body mass, you want less fat mass. But when you're achieving muscle gain, you need carbohydrate in the diet. Without the carbohydrate, you're only leaching out the glycogen. Your body is only going to shrink. It's not going to become big.
Wow, very interesting, because most guys get onto muscle training and they reduce their glycogen intake, whatever kind
Yes,
of glucose intake.
carbohydrate. Yeah.
Carbs ultimately go
Carbs.
down, which is
Yeah.
not a great time because you need both of them.
Yes,
However,
you
your
need it.
body,
Absolutely. You taper them over a period of time. You might keep tweaking that ratios on your macros on carb, protein, and fat. But until and unless you want to shrink in size, ketogenic diet is not the way to go when you're trying to gain muscle.
immediate shrink in size, allow me to tell you, this is the age when most men and women between the age of 40 to 60 are trying to lose the belly fat.
Yeah.
The ever elusive belly fat.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah.
expand on that.
Belly fat, one of the biggest risk factors. Okay, we know that deposition of fat at the belly is one of the biggest risk factors for diabetes and heart diseases. Okay, when you look at that central circumference, which of a male's body is called the apple-shaped body, okay, because of the hormones that a male body has, which is higher testosterone, it results into increased deposition on the central part. Okay, you will never see men with big hips. But women, however, because of their higher estrogen levels and because they are supposed to bear a child, okay, so in order to reduce the shock absorption that comes from the ground, have more fat deposition on the hips. However, when there is a shift in a female's body with the hormones, which happens around the menopause, there is a drop in the estrogen levels, and there is a comparative increase in the testosterone level. And that is why after menopause, a lot of women complain of fat deposition in the center instead of the hips because of the shift in hormones. So it is classic for a male to have deposition on the center. It is classic for a female to have fat deposition on the lower body and after menopause at the central area. But mobilizing this fat has to be the key for any individual, because belly fat is directly related to heart diseases. Okay, how do you do that?
How do you do that? That's the key question.
There is only two ways to do it:
Right.
exercise and control your diet. There's just two ways. There's just literally no other shortcut to doing this. Okay, what you eat and what you burn. That's it. We only have two answers to this. There is just no third way.
So one more corollary to the whole thing. A lot of people keep doing their sit-ups and ab crunches, thinking that belly fat will disappear.
No.
It's the overall fat in the body which reduces, and unfortunately, the last one to go is the belly fat.
The mobilization is difficult because you are getting pulled between two circumstances, right? From one side, your hormones are naturally telling you to deposit the fat here. And from the other side, you're creating an involuntary situation where you want to mobilize the fat from here. So the body is fighting this. But at some point, don't give up, because at some point, this mobilization will happen because there will be no other fat left in the body to mobilize.
Now, since you said something very interesting about hormones, it's been an elusive question for a long time. Not many are aware. Now, do you mean to say women around menopause should be taking their supplements for hormones, and men with their testosterone going down around 50s should they be taking growth hormone and testosterone?
It's definitely worth considering.
Very
Um,
important point. It's not a
yeah,
no-no. It's not an enigma.
absolutely not. There
Ah,
are a lot of women who suffer with some serious hormonal related issues. They cannot handle the shift in the levels, but that does not mean every female qualifies for taking a hormone replacement. If you really are seeing extreme changes and becoming a different personality, uh, we can start slightly with certain dietary options, but broadly, it must then be monitored under the guidance of a gynecologist and consider whether you need to do this. Similarly, for men, they can speak to an endocrinologist if they're seeing a lot of change in their testosterone, in their growth hormones, in their levels, in their sex drive, in the libidos. So it is definitely something not worth ignoring. But luckily we can do pathological tests, and from the diet also there are a lot of foods that can help you balance the hormones in men and in women. So along with that, a lot of support can be given through the food.
very important. This is something so important that if your diet, so every stage, Kenita, you're convincing me every 2 minutes that I should meet you only. That's the only way out. I cannot take it by reading books, and I cannot take it by any experts written down in all these Bombay Times. So you need somebody to guide you across the whole pathway,
Yes,
almost every single day with your meal. You
absolutely.
said something interesting as a passing reference. You said it takes about an hour for the fat to start burning. I
Yeah.
thought it was 20 minutes.
No. So you have your first 30 minutes where you're getting into the whole zone. So we have different energy systems, right? Your energy system starts with whatever energy is circulating. That is your
Right.
ATP, which is the quick energy. The next is coming from creatine phosphate. So you have energy system from ATP, then you have creatine phosphate, which will last you for a few seconds more, up to almost a couple of minutes. Then you already have circulating blood glucose, you have free fatty acids, you have amino acids. All this is circulating. So your body is in good shape for the first 10-15 minutes, utilizing it from all these places. Then it starts using carbohydrate, that is the glycogen, as a store, as a source of energy. Now, after 30 minutes, what kind of workout you are doing decides the mobilization of the fat. If you're going to continue with endurance, then there is going to be an overlap of energy systems. Okay, so you are going to be doing little bit of carbohydrate, little bit of fat, little more carbohydrate, little bit of fat, then more fat, more fat, more fat, less carbohydrate. By the time it is 1 hour of endurance, you have already started mobilizing a lot of fat and very little carbohydrate. However, if you decide to stop at a 30-40 minute mark, you are not mobilizing fat, but you might land up using this fat for recovery, because when you're in your recovery state and metabolically your body is demanding a certain amount of energy for recovery of the muscles, because a 30-minute workout is always very intense. So 30-minute anaerobic intense workout is not using fat for active workout, it is using fat for recovery workout. A beyond 30-40 minute workout, is utilizing fat as an active source of energy and not as a recovery source of energy.
So again, it comes to if you're doing pure cardio, You're not
Yes.
burning more calories later on during the day. But
No,
whereas
you are not.
if you're doing muscle training together with
Yes.
cardio, you're burning calories through the day. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Correct.
So you should combine the two. One day cardio, one day.
Again, very subjective. I wouldn't call this as a thumb rule. Also, the kind of weight training, resistance training, strength training, interval training, high interval resistance training, there are a lot of different kind of workouts that can be done, and there is no one workout which is considered to be like, okay, classic strength training is the best. No, it's nothing like that. We have to figure, not everybody would respond well with an alternate thing. Generic, yeah, you should have both of them as a part of your workout protocols, but how much of which workout you should do, again, get an expert opinion.
Thank you so much. Every time making it very clear that I have no choice but an expert. Now, tell me, what about protein supplements? Gujubai especially, how much proteins do we need? 1 to 2 grams per kilogram weight, so-called in medical science. Now, Gujubais hardly have anything.
Yeah.
And how is it possible for vegetarians, not just Gujubais, I'm saying for vegans and vegetarians to get their protein supply for the day?
Yeah, protein is a very important nutrient. In multiple ways, hyped in the muscle training world, where it is considered to be a magic ingredient, and hyped in the negative way, with many people assuming it's going to give them a kidney disorder. Okay, now a protein intake, a minimal protein intake, is extremely crucial in your diet for multiple reasons. The first one is it is required for correcting the ratio of carbohydrate, protein, and fat. A diet is not complete if all these three macronutrients are not in the right balance. Um, a lot of communities generally consume a lot of carbohydrate in their diet. Their staple just has more carbohydrate. It's not their fault, it's just the way they eat. So they need to be like a Guju community, a Marwadi diet. They need to be explained, educated the importance of the protein. You cannot directly start 2 grams per kg body weight for someone who's a Gujarati and just lifting weight without checking his baseline diet. There is a very high possibility that the baseline diet does not have dietary protein. So step one is correct the dietary protein. Step two is bring in a protein supplement, right? And educate at every point that the protein supplement is not going to damage your kidney. Kidney damage happens when it is an already compromised kidney. So protein supplements are very important if your diet is not able to give you enough. But I assure you, vegan diet or vegetarian diet, if we correct the way they are eating, you can still manage to give them 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per kg body weight just with food.
Wow,
You
60
don't
grams,
need a
60 grams,
supplement.
60 grams protein for a vegetarian is such a tough job.
No, it's not. It's the way we plan it.
Very important. And another myth which I wanted to, and you really touched it very well, that don't be against any protein supplement.
Don't be against it. There is, there is nothing to be against any kind of nutrient supplement. See, there are different kind of supplements. There are some supplements that are ergogenic in nature, which are only performance oriented. Their job is to enhance performance. They are supplements that are only prescribed to enhance performance. However, your vitamins, your protein supplements, say your sports drinks, they are energy giving nutrients. You need to put them in the diet if the rest of the diet is not complete.
Hmm. Interesting. Electrolytes while working out. People do intense workout when I'm working at the gym. Uh,
Yeah.
a lot of people take electrolytes. They do the supplements, which are is it
Yeah.
advisable?
Yeah. So, yes, a lot of them need it. But again, electrolytes can be of two types. There could be a sports drink which has glucose and electrolytes, and there could be a pure electrolyte drink. A pure electrolyte drink is more essential who have extreme sweat losses or have cramping issues. And if there are an underlying issue like that, we would prescribe an electrolyte drink only. But if you are an endurance sport runner, if you're someone who's trying to improve your endurance performance, then giving a sports drink, which is a combination of sugar and electrolytes, which are usually isotonic solutions, can be given. But just because you work out does not mean you need this.
Okay. On
So
a note to that, one of the things that a lot of steroids are given in these dietary supplement, I mean the protein supplements which are available in the market. It's very confusing in a store for a common man to walk in and find out which supplement. If you were to recommend pure simple supplement without any side effect, which one would you recommend today?
actually, don't make me say a brand because it gets very complicated with me. It gets a little bit of an endorsement issue here. So
Correct.
I'm not going to give a brand, but I can definitely guide you how to buy a protein supplement. Okay. First of all, protein supplements need to be sealed. Second of all, when you're buying a protein supplement, if you have a trusted source, then go and get it from a trusted source. If you do not trust the source, protein supplements always have at the bottom the manufacturer and the distributor. Okay. If you are and you've had a bad experience with the protein supplement, email the manufacturer and inform them this is the batch number that you're planning to buy, whether this particular product was, when was it manufactured, whether they can vouch for this particular product in this batch number, so you can reduce as much as you can of the adulteration that you feel you could be having. Also, there are certain labels that you can look out for. There are labels like BSCG. Okay, that is banned substances label that you can look out for. You can look out for a USP label. I'm not talking about labels which say non-GMO, FSSAI. These are not labels that are telling you that this product is free of doping. Then there are labels like WADA, World Anti-Doping Agency, also certifies products. There are labels like NSF. So when we work with athletes, even we fear this. So what we do is we find a batch which is labeled, which is tested, which is certified, and then we buy the whole lot.
Okay. Appreciate
So,
appreciate your answer. Now coming to a very important seasonal thing. I'm a good Juba. I love mangoes. Can I have mangoes during this season? Yes.
yes, please. And if anyone who doesn't like them, y'all don't know, y'all have wasted your life, because mango is the most amazing fruit, super rich on vitamin A, excellent source of fiber. Yes, I will not generalize mango in its quantity. How much to consume can get a bit specific when it comes to a diabetic, when it comes to a Weight Watcher, but I guarantee you, I can plan a mango in anybody's diet with any underlying clinical disorder, and I would want to plan it because it is such an amazing fruit. I'll tweak everything around to fit in a mango for the client. So please enjoy your mango. Do not fear it. Don't assume it's going to make you gain weight, because it's a classic fruit that should not be missed.
Lovely. I was waiting to hear this. This is music to my ears. And what about the desi ghee that people want to talk about? The much talked about desi ghee.
So let's understand ghee a little bit, okay? Ghee is a saturated fat, okay? The way we consume ghee, the problem arises that when you consume excess fat with excess carbohydrate, that's where the issue happens. If there is fat along with good proteins, this combination is fine. But fat with a lot of carbohydrate, because excess carbohydrate also converts to fat, okay, that's where the whole mixture goes wrong. So if you are having a couple of teaspoons of ghee in the day, desi ghee in the day is totally allowed. It's a great source of fat. It's a good source of fat. You want to, however, always buy a good source ghee, because otherwise the hydrogenated fats are again not the right kind of ghee to buy. So yeah.
Great. Appreciate. That myth surrounding ghee, mangoes, and the fruits. Should you be having fruits after a meal or before a meal?
So fruits have what is known as, the carbohydrate is called fructose. Okay, fruit is fructose. Now, fructose is not metabolized like sugar. It undergoes a very different form of metabolism, and it happens in the liver. So your body, when you wake up in the morning, the liver is completely leached out of the carbohydrate. So your first few meals go into just correcting the liver glycogen stores. By the time you have reached a certain time in the day and the glycogen stores in the liver are full, any additional source of carbohydrate which is extra is going to get converted to fat. And that is why The problem with eating a fruit at a wrong time after a meal or end of the day is that your liver is saturated. You are just unnecessarily going to convert this fruit to fat.
Very important. Very, very interesting answer that you've given. Now comes the famous vegan diet. Milk and milk products, so many people have been having it from childhood. It was forced down the throat of everyone. In the
Yeah.
US, I remember a huge billboard saying that if you haven't had a milk on your mouth, then there is something you're missing out. You're missing out your vitamin D. What's your take on the vegan diet? The nuances, who should take it, whether or not good idea, and the buttermilk, how the Guju community loves, and the probiotic component.
Hmm.
Let's listen to that.
Okay, so let's go step by step.
Yeah,
First is milk.
yeah.
Uh, let's say a vegan is not a diet. A vegan is a personality. It's a choice of life. Okay. So if you are a vegan, you are also not wearing animal. You are also not killing animal. You are also animal loving, and you are just a good human. Okay. Doing a vegan because your neighbor was doing it, and on the vegan diet she lost 5 kgs, and then you took your full leather coated Prada bag and went out for dinner is not a vegan. Okay. So vegan, you cannot call yourself a vegan if you are not a personality who is vegan. Okay. But when you look at vegan as a dietary choice for lot of underlying allergy issues, it helps because lactose is a very notorious form of allergen. The reason why dairy probably got this extremely poor hype is because it started getting adulterated. We wanted more milk production. We started pumping hormones, and we started just having a lot of milk which was not pure like it used to be, right? Am I someone is uh, who completely doesn't believe in dairy? No, I think dairy is very, very important in the right quantity in the day is definitely required, but I would definitely source the dairy. We need to make sure if you are someone who likes to consume your 2 glasses of chash and 1 bowl of dahi and 1 glass of milk in the day, then your source of dairy needs to be organic. Your source of dairy needs to be an hormone free, grass fed animal coming from a cow or a buffalo. So, yes, while I would definitely say vegan, go for it, hi-fi. You should consider being vegan if you are a part of that community. But if you are someone who's just doing it for the diet's sake, then I would say no, that's not the way to live.
Fantastic. What you are trying to emphasize, friends, what she's saying is a lot of these cows and animals are fed on hormones so they keep lactating continuously with
Yes.
oxytocin and everything. And the milk would contain those hormones. And what she's
Yeah.
trying to hint to you is that indirectly, the early puberty in young girls in the US and otherwise, early
It's
growth
because
factor,
of this.
the lot of PCOD that I've seen in people
Yeah.
out there has been partly responsible for the dairy products, and that's
Yes.
very, very interesting. So have
Yeah.
organic. Don't get scared about that unless you have a celiac disease or you have
Yeah.
severe intolerance to
Hmm.
milk and its milk products. It's a good
Yeah.
idea to have it. And
Yes. Absolutely.
for those vegan who are not having milk, let's put it for that, because it's become a fad. And as you said so rightly, people like to mime their neighbor. Somebody
Yeah.
lost 5 kgs, so I'm going to start doing that because
Yeah.
nothing else worked for me.
Yeah.
How do they get their probiotic component?
No, so probiotic dairy is not the only source of probiotic, right? The probiotic is also or you can also get you. So okay, let me explain this. There is prebiotics and there is probiotics. Your prebiotics is what you get a lot from fiber. Okay, so a lot of your fiber-rich foods, your fruits, your vegetables, your grains are very high on prebiotics. Prebiotics convert to probiotics. The probiotics come from anything that is fermented. Okay, so dahi is just one of those probiotics. You have fermented, like kefir is a probiotic that also works very well. Supplemental probiotic. You can, kimchi, that cabbage, that's also a probiotic. So all these are different sources of probiotic that can be added in the diet. Your idli dosa, the natural way of fermentation, is also high on probiotics.
So idli dosa is by itself a probiotic stuff.
Absolutely.
Brilliant, That is a very practical answer. That if so, those vegan who want to understand that what are the other ways by which I can have minus taking any probiotic tablets or capsule. You have a lot of dietary things which can be taken. It's not
Yeah.
just milk and milk products or dahi which can give you. Now, yeah, anything you were saying something.
No, no, no.
Uh,
Good.
okay. Important thing, major meals timing. The great fad of finishing your meal before 6 o'clock and early morning, because there are early risers and there are late risers and there are early
Yeah.
sleepers and there are late sleepers.
Yeah.
What the hint was that you should have at least 4 hours of digesting time for your alimentary canal before you go to sleep.
Yeah.
Just expand a little on these eating habits and eating
Okay.
before 6 o'clock.
So there is something that is known as time restricted eating. Okay, a time restricted eating pattern, which is basically finishing your meals earlier, 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever is that concept, is is for people who even go to bed by 10 o'clock. Okay, so a time restricted eating pattern works very well because you are sleeping lighter, you're waking up early, your morning, we call this a circadian rhythm. Okay, so body has a natural circadian rhythm that it uses, which clocks with the outside timing. Okay, now when we are looking at this kind of eating pattern, every person has a different lifestyle. Now if I tell someone who works till 11, 12 in the night that no, time restricted eating 6 baje mein khana khatam kar denge, it's it's difficult. You are shunning the metabolism of the person, because then you're not going to give food till they wake up next day in the morning till 10, 10:30. If you want to make an overall lifestyle change, yes, it's a great thing to finish eating early, but finish eating early and then go to bed early. Don't finish eating early and then stay awake till 2 o'clock in the night. Then that concept does not match. So then you have to give food again at 9 o'clock, and then you have to make sure that the body is metabolically staying agile. So not a concept I would apply for everyone, but overall, as a generic thumb rule, finishing your meals early work for people who go to bed early. Otherwise, it's very individualized, it's very customized. Sit across the table with the client and figure it out what time he wants to wake up and what time he wants to go to bed.
Now during the lockdown, most people are working European timing.
Yeah,
They are
it was
sleeping, they are
yeah.
sleeping 4.5 hours late. No, nobody sleep before 1 or 2. Everybody's on Netflix and otherwise.
Absolutely. That was, I think I would have never made those kind of diets that I was making, which had so much snack option at 10 o'clock in the night, 11 o'clock in the night, but still at the end of the week would give me some results.
So coming to Corona times, what diet would you advise? How would you increase your immunity in the present scenario and in the days to come? Because guys who have come out of Corona well are the guys who have had good immunity.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what is it
So,
that you would
I
recommend?
think we all spoke a lot about immunity in the beginning, and I think somewhere we even overdid everything because we are the country of Ayurveda, and we know the science of the haldi, and we know how moringa is useful and how to take our, methi seeds and things like that. So we obviously knew the concepts and the fundamentals of immunity that came from our land, and we started applying all these things in the diet. But I think somewhere we all got a little crazy and we just overdid it. And then there was haldi happening 3 times in the day, there was ghee happening, and then there was soup like green powders happening, and people were growing wheatgrass and uska din mein juice 3 baar, and zinc is happening, and vitamin C is happening, and lemon squeezed. I think we guys had to really slow down. We just because you do those things does not mean that your body is going to get a shield. Okay, these things in the right quantity need to be taken in combinations with other meals. Like just taking, say, a zinc without a vitamin C, a iron without a vitamin C, a zinc without a magnesium, these absorptions don't happen very well. So, from the diet point of view, if I literally had to tell you very briefly, don't be on extreme drastic diets. It is not the time to completely withdraw food. If you even if you're feeling a little bit unwell, go off doing whatever you are doing and start eating well. I just recently did a video on my Instagram where I was telling people, if you're going to get vaccinated, just take a break from any kind of a diet for 2 days, because it is important. You don't know how your body is responding. So your grains, your fruits, your vegetables, nuts, seeds, like these things, you have to have a diet where these things are there. In what quantity? So that it doesn't create a ridiculous weight gain or a side effect with any clinical condition is again underlying. Please discuss with a professional and then get that sorted in the plan.
We always come back to you every 5 minutes. We'll come back to you. Nuts. What about nuts?
Yeah,
People went nuts
very.
about, people went nuts about nuts. So what do you think?
People went nuts. Yeah, and I think it's very good that they did, because they are extremely high on good fats. Okay, all nuts and seeds are high on. We have omega 3s, MUFAs. They're extremely high on these combinations. They are a good source of protein, especially during the lockdown when we were struggling to source protein shakes for our athletes. I was giving them like a handful of peanuts, handful of almonds, because this could, actually gather the total protein that we could manage in the day. So that is another thing. And third, super high on magnesium. Magnesium is very, very important for sleep, for recovery, required for headache, required for immunity, because it's a catalyst in a lot of biochemical reactions, which is required for production of antioxidants in the body. So I guess nuts are a winner, all in all.
How much quantity and what time of the day? Should it be mixed with food or should it be had in the morning in breakfast time? What would
The
it be?
quantity would be subjective, uh, because again of underlying clinical factors. Yeah, this would be a safe thing to just say. Timing of the day, nuts can be used as free food. In all honesty, they don't interfere with anything when they are being consumed. They don't interfere with anyone's absorption. They are absorbed very well by itself. So nuts and seeds can literally be added anytime in the day in an individual's diet.
Great. And something important. How does one increase HDL? Genetically, some people have low HDL, very high VLDL, LDL. Not necessarily that their diets are bad. Hypertriglyceridemia. The biggest problems right now occurring is metabolic problems with people. So not just dietary, but a kind of more rendition towards having hypertriglycerides,
Yeah.
low HDL, high VLDL. Any diet you
Yeah.
recommend for that?
So, triglyceride, increased triglyceride for someone who does not have an underlying genetic disorder is directly proportional to the refined carbohydrates in the diet. Okay. So, carbohydrates that are extremely high on glycemic index. So, your sugar, your pastries, your cookies, your biscuits, your cakes, maida, all these things are high glycemic index. They convert to stored fat as adipose tissue through triglycerides. So if you have high triglycerides, cutting fat is not the point. Getting your carbohydrate content in place is the point. Okay. Second is your HDL. HDL levels, the good cholesterol. There is the only successful way to increase HDL is to increase exercise. Exercise is known to have metabolically improved the HDL levels in the body. And if you had to tell me any dietary source, no dietary source is that effective. But exercise with a good diet can support the increase in the HDL level and control the increase in the other lipid profiles.
Great. That's a very important insight. I agree to disagree with you on the exercise part. However much I'm trying, my HDL is not going up.
Not
But
going up.
but that's the only way out. I understand. I appreciate what you're saying. It's not to contradict you, but just to let you know, each of individual is so very different, and which is
Very
why
different.
so very important that people like you look at everyone and look at them particularly to understand what their nuances are, what the plus minus, how good are they following instructions, and their dietary habits. So important to tell. There is no one diet which fits all. That's the
No.
bottom line that you are saying. But
Mhm.
let's come to some better things. What are the mood enhancing things that you can have? Things which can increase my serotonin level, or a
Ah,
fibromyalgia patient. I want to increase serotonin level. What am I going to take to her? The real good ones, not the pheromones or
all carbohydrates increase serotonin levels. Okay.
So have more
So
sugar, enjoy.
enjoy the right kind of carbohydrates because it will keep you happy. The moment you withdraw carbs, your immediate effect is to get snappy.
Whoa.
Okay. So
Whoa.
if you are deciding to withdraw the carbs and you're observing this kind of a snappy mood, you could blame it on a lack of carbohydrate in the diet. That could be
All
causing.
husbands, be careful. Please do not go on a low carb diet for the wives. If you have had it, there'll be trouble in the house during Corona time. So one of the things is to have more pastries and cakes and have more mangoes.
Maybe become marathon runners, then y'all can be on a carb load all the time.
Carb load all the time. Yeah. So serotonin instant increase in any kind of sugar, which is why that those sugar drinks, high sugar
Feel
drinks.
good feeling. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. And any other thing that the first thing that was talked about was the sugar spikes which we get, the insulin in the diet and the diet. Talk
Yeah.
about on that. How do we stop the insulin surge and low hypoglycemia with hyperglycemia or excessive insulin output that people don't understand?
Okay, so insulin is a hormone that is released by the pancreas. Okay, insulin is released in response to the carbohydrate that you consume. Different types of carbohydrate create a different kind of spike in insulin. Naturally, insulin has enough capacity to handle an entire 1 kg cake in your body. It is not going to get you diabetic just because you had so much sugar. However, there is a huge uh, there are people who have already existing high insulin levels. Now, when your already existing insulin level is on the higher side, whatever you are consuming, so insulin only has few directions that it can take the food to. If you are exercising, insulin will convert that food to energy. If you are just sitting and not doing anything, insulin is going to convert that same food to fat. So that is why exercise is very important, is because it can help you bring that insulin level to a little bit of normal by converting food to energy. Now, let's assume a scenario where someone has an hyperinsulinemia and has a circulating high insulin. Whatever they consume, even if healthy, because the insulin is just finding it in the blood, is going to convert it to fat. Okay, so the best strategy to apply to keep the insulin level from not spiking or to not feed an already existing high insulin is to be on a low carbohydrate diet.
Very important. It's something very important and vital because people go berserk.
Yeah.
And people are asking which is the time. What is the first thing that you have in the morning after waking up? And 8 hours of so-called fasting on an empty stomach. What kind of food should you start? Should you start with hot water with lime? You should be having some haldi. You should be having some nuts. You should be having some fruits before your cup of tea, the cup of tea which goes into you, and the sugar spike in.
Okay, first of all, the 8 hour is not a fast. 8 hours is just means se uthe types.
Yeah.
Okay. You wake up in the morning. I would always recommend have a glass of water. Just dilute the acids in the body, and having a couple of glasses of water helps. There are a lot of people who prefer doing some kind of hydrotherapy where they like have a couple of liters of water. Even that is fine. Now, it's again you would be surprised to know that every individual responds very differently to, say, having haldi in the morning or soaked methi seeds in the morning or having cinnamon powder in the morning, because not everyone's acid level and the pH base is not the same. Some people might get acidic or get a reflux by taking methi seeds that are soaked overnight. Some people might find it very difficult to digest first thing in the morning. Some people who have a reflux issue might get nausea. So you have to let their acids settle for at least an hour, hour and a half before they eat something. So there is no thumb rule on the best food on the universe. But if I had to go with, say, 60% of a general population, I would say water with lime first thing in the morning is a great way to pump up the vitamin C in the body. And then whether you got it in the rest of the day or not, it doesn't matter. At least you got the first shot in the morning.
Brilliant. And now comes the point. The good old saying was king's breakfast, prince's lunch, and a pauper's dinner. Now, in that intermittent fasting, when you're having your last meal at say 9 o'clock at night or 10, 9 o'clock
Yes.
at night, and then the next one to be taken at 2 o'clock. Now, suddenly the acids are running in your body.
Yeah.
There's tremendous acidity going on in the body. The sugar is not there. You have no breakfast.
Yeah.
How is that myth now busted?
It is not a myth, okay? And first of all, I think people are misunderstanding the whole concept of intermittent fasting. They have kind of made it so customized to their own body type and their own lifestyle that they are feeling eating just 8 hours, they can eat whatever they want, but that's not how it works. If you are someone who's going to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, staying fasted till 2 o'clock in the afternoon is absolutely ridiculous. That's not the way you do an intermittent fasting. You wake up, you take few hours, but you need to then finish early. So you need to do a time restricted eating, and not just because you felt I'll do a 2 to 9 because it gives me more freedom to eat. No, that's a wrong way. And if you are someone who's getting reflux, who's getting nausea, who's having an underlying acid issue, maybe you want to take it easy with the intermittent fasting. You are not a candidate for it. Or even if you are, you're not a candidate for it to stay fasted till 2 o'clock. Then your intermittent fasting needs to be something that needs to start at 10 and then finish by 6.
Very, very important myth that you're trying to clear out. Really appreciate your insight into it and your frankness to understand, because people have gone berserk. A lot of acidities have come up, insulin
Yeah.
levels have changed, mood
Yeah.
swings have happened, their energy levels have changed just because somebody else was eating between 2 and 9.
Yeah.
That's not the best thing to do. What is it? Well, your body is going to tell you what is your best answer.
Absolutely.
What are
Yeah.
the common myths and misconceptions that you see with your clients day in and day out that people have?
I think one of the biggest myths I come across is protein, yaar. I mean, even now, I think the education is so critical for people for protein. Abhi to, like, it's not just about people who are going to the gym need protein. Protein is such an important nutrient. And I think that's one myth I'm busting since over a decade now. And I'm still doing that. And I'm still convincing people to eat enough protein in the diet. So I think that's one very common myth I come across all the time with my clients.
Very important that you
Yeah.
may you have to increase your protein content, and you can make it 1.2
Absolutely.
milligram. Almost 60 grams is not because I always found whatever you do, vegetarian diet doesn't have more than 20-24 grams. So what about eggs? Now the important question: the good proteins from the eggs, every possible vitamin, everything good about eggs is being talked about. For
Yeah.
vegetarians, what's your take on that?
Please go ahead, eat eggs, and those who are not eating, you must start eating. It's a gold standard where protein is concerned. An egg claims around 6 grams of protein, 6 to 7 grams of protein per egg. You are getting 6 to 7 grams of protein from that egg. Your body is absorbing, digesting, and retaining all those 6 to 7 grams of protein from the egg. So, egg is a gold standard of protein. All proteins are compared to egg in terms of their biological value, absorption, digestion, and retention. So anyone who is an vegetarian must try and include eggs in their diet as their main source of protein.
First thing in the morning in breakfast?
Why not? Why not in lunch? Why not in dinner?
So how many eggs? You said 6 grams.
Again, subjective now. What is the protein requirement? But you can go up to 12 egg whites and 3 yolks in the day. If you can digest it,
Whoa, 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 whoa. That's
there is no limit. It depends upon your gut capacity.
So that's individualistic. There's no single answer.
Absolutely.
But a lot
Absolutely.
of these gym trainers, they tell these new guys who've been working out suddenly going to the gym to take protein supplements and say 10 eggs or 15 eggs, egg whites in the morning. By God, that could be a disaster then. They'll not be able to.
The rest of the day has to be calculated. See, they are going by a thumb rule. They're not customizing the plan. They are going by their sheer experience because they know eating 10 to 12 eggs a day is going to give them the power and the muscle build that they need. So they kind of just generically go and say that itna to khana hi chahiye, protein shake bhi add karo, fir muscle mass dekho.
Correct, correct. How much time after a good workout should one be having a protein supplement if they do?
Depends what your goal is. If your goal is to increase your muscle mass, then immediately. If your workout was not very intensive muscle breaking, then you can just spread the proteins through the day. Then protein shake is not mandatory post the workout. You can take it anytime in the day.
Great. And now let's come to your famous book, The Athlete in You.
My
Do you,
book.
do you recommend everybody should start moving, can keep moving?
My book was written keeping only one concept in mind, that there is more to life than just doing chest, shoulder, tricep, back, bicep kind of workouts. Okay. Um, Athletes, even if you are a weekend warrior, come with a very different mindset. They are very motivated. So all I was trying to say through that book is pick up a sport and enjoy that sport, and you will realize that the dedication that you will have towards playing that sport will just change you as a person, because it brings discipline, it brings workouts, it brings complementary workouts, and the diet to support. If you want to become a marathon runner, if you want to start cycling, if you're confused but you want to start swimming as one of your important sports, you want to play baddie, you want to do squash, you want to play cricket, pick up any of these sports. I've spoken about all these sports, and the book is guiding you that if you are someone who's never done any workout before but wants to play a sport, then eat this way, work out this way, and hopefully it will bring a lot of motivational changes in your body as well, which will be lifestyle.
Brilliant. So one of the ways to motivate yourself, get your endorphins going, is a good sports workout. The
Absolutely.
serotonins and endorphins which are there, and the feel good factor
Yeah.
after a good game is,
Yes.
is a phenomenal thing that should be incorporated. There is no age at which you cannot begin any particular game.
Absolutely not.
And the commonest thing now, before I wind up, Kenita, is walking. The least one should be doing is walking. Am I right?
Yeah.
What are the benefits of a walk?
Walking has a lot of benefits. Uh, staying, just staying active. The reason why we come up with a number of 10,000 steps is not that 10,000 step is life changing. 10,000 steps is just a human mind that works well with numbers. Okay, do 10,000 steps a day. Matlab, get 80% in college. Matlab, we work good with numbers, and people work well with numbers. So a human mind works well with numbers. So with few researchers, we came to a conclusion that if a human body could stay active for 10,000 steps in the day, it will keep their structure, their frame, their body type, their metabolism in a good, moderate format. So walking, whether you walk as a workout, whether you're using walk as a part of your lifestyle activity. Like I at work have a standing desk. I don't sit. I have a desk where I'm all the time standing, I'm all the time walking, and I'm checking on my steps. That's purely because it keeps my posture in check. Okay. So I wouldn't underplay a walk as a part of someone's workout. I wouldn't say, walking hi to kar raha hai. No, walking can depend a lot about your stride, about your heart rate. You can make it a good volume oxygen consuming, fat burning kind of a workout. It doesn't necessarily needs to be called as she's just walking. No, it can be very intense.
The least you can do is walk. It has phenomenal benefits. Start
Phenomenal benefits. Phenomenal benefits.
great. At this stage, time being a constraint always in life, with a promise
Yeah.
that we'll get you back again a couple of times. A lot
Yes.
of questions remain unanswered. A very frank,
I hope I answered you though.
you beautifully, beautifully. You cleared a lot of
Good.
misconceptions. I'm sure it's going to raise a lot more questions. That you
Excellent.
need a guide for everything.
Yes.
Bin guru gyan nahi, hakikat hai. And you can't just start because it worked for somebody else. The
Yeah.
human body is phenomenal. What works for my neighbor and my brother will not work for me. For
Absolutely.
sure, and it will not work for me. Each one of us made differently. There is no fact that this is the best thing and that is the best thing. Everybody can find their own suitable thing. What suits you, your temperament, your body will tell you. There'll be a
Yeah.
feel good factor. If you are not happy doing something, however much somebody tells you, don't have to listen to them. Your
Yes.
body will definitely tell you without the aches and the pains, the endorphin, the serotonin, the happiness level, your sleep level, your appetite. Oh yes, let me ask you about burping. A lot of people have, the extra burping question. That was a question which I left unanswered. How to
Mm.
reduce that?
Again, there has to be some underlying dietary complication because of which they are having. There is some food that is not suiting, or they're just drinking too much water between the meals, which is just creating too much air, or they are fasted for very long, or they're taking certain kind of vitamins that are not suiting them, which can result into gas production. So yes, it can definitely be solved with the diet.
Great. And friends, that was a very frank talk with Kinita. Very sweet of her to spend such valuable time from her family. and give us a lot of understanding about the misunderstanding and the misconceptions that we have.